Hi, my name is Paul Fisher and I've been painting watercolour now for the last 12 or 13 years, perhaps the last 2 or 3 years more seriously. This YouTube video is part of a series that I've done which basically explains some of the techniques that I've learned in the last couple of years, which I found very useful and very enjoyable, which I'm sure other budding artists would also like to have a go at. The other videos include how to stretch watercolour paper quickly, and also the water spray method used for some fun fluffy puffins and cows and so forth. This video is going to be about painting a couple of very colourful flamingos, and we'll introduce the use of masking fluid, some very basic washes, maybe a bit of splatter, and also maybe a bit of water spray as well. And this will be to produce a very quick painting and show you how you can produce something that's vibrant, colourful, fun in a very short space of time. You can see more of my videos on my YouTube channel, and you can see more of my artwork on my website, which is paulfisherart.com. I'm also presently chairman of the Laycock Art Group, which is a very vibrant group of artists who meet every week in Laycock, the village of Laycock in Wiltshire, UK. And if you go to laycockartgroup.co.uk, you'll see there not only my own gallery, but the gallery of other members too. Do have a look through that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you get something out of it, and I hope at the end of the day it'll inspire you to do something simple and quick and easy for yourself, which will put a smile on your face. Thanks. Okay, you can see I've already got the two flamingos drawn. I've also coated the main bodies of the flamingos in masking fluid. I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. First of all, though, I just want to talk a bit about the equipment that I use, or I'm going to use in this demonstration. I'm using Arches or Arche 300 gram rough paper. It's a lovely, lovely paper. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not the cheapest paper, obviously, but it's a paper that will slowly absorb water, slowly absorb the colour. It tends to give you, therefore, more time to work in feeding the paper with colour and more tone. If you want a quick dry brush technique where you just drag the brush across, it's very easy to get a lovely speckled effect with this paper. So I thoroughly enjoy it. As you see, I've got it stretched onto a board. It's a little bit bowed actually, because the board is not really thick enough. If you want to see how I stretch paper very, very quickly, so that you're ready to work within 5 or 10 minutes, then you can go and see one of my other YouTube videos specifically for that. The masking fluid that I've used is the Winsor & Newton type. I'm not a fan, I have to say, of masking fluid. I don't enjoy using it. If you do use it, and here we're going to use it because we're going to paint the background, the water, first, and we want, because the background is going to be a blue colour, it's going to be quite a light toned blue. We don't want that blue to go across the bodies of the birds as such, because if you do that and then you try and paint the vibrant colours on top, the blue has a tendency to make the colours you put on top look pale or dirty or subdued. You've got to be careful with blues. So often I see them being used for skies and so forth, obviously, or water, and I find that a lot of artists, when they use them, tend to overuse the blues and cut out any light that you might have been able to capture on their paintings. So in this case I want to retain the white of the bodies of the birds, and therefore really the only way to do that is with masking fluid. And you can see I've already put that on. I have to say that as I was putting it on, the cap sort of fell off in a rather indiscreet way, and so I got it all over my clothes. Do beware of that. use it carefully, get the cap on as quickly as you can, make sure the brushes that you're using to apply it are put straight into water. Don't leave it open on a table, it's liable to spill over. But as I say, I don't use it that often, try and avoid it if I can. The paints that I'm going to use are largely Winsor & Newton. For the water, I'm going to use basically cobalt blue with a little touch of alizarin crimson for the top area, because I want that to look a little bit more distant and grey. Pure cobalt in the centre, and then cobalt with a bit of ultramarine blue in it for the bottom area. As far as blues are concerned, ultramarine represents the warmest blue you can get, and cobalt is a sort of a middle cold blue. But we want the area in the foreground, which is closer to the eye of the viewer, to be warmer, and therefore we use ultramarine with the cobalt in that area. The other colours I'll use are Winsor orange, which is a nice transparent orange, Indian yellow, which I love using, it's a lovely deep yellow, and a bit of cad red, and that's going to cover most of the body. And to darken the areas up below where the light's not being shown on the backs of the birds, I shall use a bit of violet in there as well. The brushes I'm using are Koblinski sable brushes. These are by Da Vinci. They're brilliant brushes, hold a lot of water, not cheap, and I'm going to use a 4, 6 and 8 in size. Other brushes that I use, I won't use these now, are Rosemary & Co. Brushes. Lovely brushes, very well made. This is a series 401, which is a sable blend. Lovely brush, springs back nicely. So that's the brushes, the paper, plenty of water obviously. Palettes, I get asked about palettes quite a lot. This one is very cheap, it's only about 12 or 13 pounds from Frank Herring & Sons in Dorset. They're compact palette. It's brilliant, lovely mixing areas, and holds holds 12 paints. And I also use the this one, which is the Barry Honeman's Cloverleaf paint box. I use this a lot when I'm painting plein air. Great piece of equipment, lovely mixing receptacles. You can put it into the dishwasher as well to clean it up. Make sure you don't do that when you've got your pots and pans in at the same time. Okay, so I've got the masking fluid on. Thing to do now is to get the background on. I'll then dry that with a hairdryer, which will allow me then to take the masking fluid off. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the entire paper. This is so that I don't end up with any hard edges or hard lines in the background, and it also just buys me a bit of time, especially if you're working in an environment which is centrally heated and is therefore quite warm. Unless you work very, very quickly with your washers, then you'll find you'll end up with all sorts of hard lines and so forth. Make sure that the water is evenly distributed over the top. Now I'm going to mix up my first wash, which will be cobalt blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson, and this turns the wash into a nice faint warm grey. A little bit too much alizarin crimson there, but a little bit more cobalt in. I want the background above the birds to be very light, but I want it to be dark enough so that when I take the masking fluid off, the tops of the birds show through as white against the background. So there goes my background. You see it's very, very faint in tone. I might add a little bit more to that in a second. And then I'm going to put on some pure cobalt across the middle of the painting. And I'm going to go for a slightly streaky effect. as it reaches the base. Nice long strokes. Bring that down. Leave a little bit of white here and there. Just put in a few more streaks, leaving light and dark areas. Now, as I'm putting more paint on, to feed it, I am making sure that the paint I put on is drier than the paint that's already there, or the background that's already there. Otherwise I'll end up with a whole load of cauliflowers. Looking at the top there, I think that could do just being a slightly darker tone. Just put that on. Yeah. And because I wetted the paper already, I can do it without any great problems. That looks okay. Now, down at the base again, I'm going to use a bit of ultramarine blue. Good idea to make sure that your colours and your palette are clean before you start. So streak that in. There we go. A little bit behind there. Don't want constant streaks that all look the same. Want to vary them a little bit. I'm going to use a dry brush just to cut out some of the fuzziness. And just reduce the darker tone just slightly. That's okay. It's looking all right. Good. Okay. I think we'll leave it there. Don't keep on going at it all the time, otherwise as it dries you'll end up with kickbacks, mushrooms, whatever. Once you've got it looking relatively okay, leave it. It's only the background, it's not going to be the thing that catches the eye of the viewer when they first see the picture. So now I'm going to use the hairdryer on that and get it dry. Okay, so I've now dried off the picture. The next stage is to start painting the flamingos themselves. And so we need to remove the masking fluid. Now, before you do that, please take on board this piece of advice. Go and wash your hands carefully with soap and water. The reason for that is that on the paper I've got some graphite, which is obviously the 2B or 3B pencil that I've used. There's the masking fluid itself, which is never feels particularly dry. It's always tacky, and getting it off can end up with a whole load of rubbish and smudges and everything else on your painting. So always work clean. So I've cleaned my hands, hopefully enough. And so now I'm going to remove the masking fluid, and to do that I don't try and take it off with my nail. I simply rub at it like this from one end, and there you are, you can see it start to come away. And I try to take it off in one sort of long roll, if you like, starting from one end and working towards the other. Okay, you can see I'm having to rub quite hard, so that means that any dirt on my fingers that was there before, and of course even though you maybe can't see it, you'll have dirt on your fingers from the drawing, rubbing these out and all sorts of stuff. I've got to come down there a wee bit now. It'll get pushed into the surface of the paper. So the rule is, as with lots of different crafts and arts and so forth, work clean at all times. There we are, we're almost there now. It's the neck. I did use masking fluid on the beaks of these birds. There's no need to, because anything that's darker than the background doesn't need masking fluid on. Fine. It's, if I can just find myself a pencil. Here we go. taking that off has meant that I've lost some of my lines a little bit, so I'll just reintroduce some of those. Don't need to go too far. That's okay. Good. That's looking all right. Fine. So now start to paint the bows. Now, I have actually done this painting before, and I'll show you what I did. It is full of problems. Here we go. The main problem is that this bird, which is slightly behind this one here, is a bit too, tonally a bit too intense. This neck here of the bird that's in front is not standing out far enough from the bird in the background. And the reason that's happened is because I painted the bird in the background before I painted this one here. So I want to lighten that area there, get more contrast. Contrast here, tone in the tone, is very, very important, and therefore bring the contrast that one there down too. Also, I wasn't too happy with the colours, and I lost a lot of the light on the backs of the birds. So I want to rectify that with this new painting, hopefully. But I hope you can see that in this case we've got a lot of white there. There's the white of the paper, and there's the background. That background, when I put it on, looked extremely light. You can see that there is quite a good contrast there between the two, which allows me to retain the light on top of the birds, which is what I'm going to try and do. Okay, so I'll start off, and I'm going to work very much wet into wet. I'll put a little bit, I don't want a hard edge to my white on the top, so I just put a little bit of water, just dampen that slightly, and then I'll go straight for the Indian yellow. Start to paint that. This is a lovely colour, the Indian yellow, especially the Winsor & Newton version of it. Down. I'll leave you a little area on around the edge there where it would be light. As it touches the wet that I put on the top, it goes, there's a lovely, lovely fuzzy finish, which is rather nice. Okay, and then I'll go and use my Winsor orange. Just drop that in. Lovely, lovely bright colours these. Delight to work with. But you'll have your own preferences as far as the makeup paint is concerned. Just ending up there with a slight hard edge to the back of the neck. I don't want that, so just introduce a bit of clear water to that. And again around here, just giving a little bit of shape to that. Okay, I'm being rough and ready. There's no need to be very accurate. Go to my Cad Red, drop that in. We're getting all sorts of mushrooms and kitbacks and so forth, which is absolutely gorgeous. On the cheek there, down here. I've probably got a little bit more red there than I really wanted, but I did want this bird to come well forward. I'll just remove some of the red there. Good. Okay. Let that just dry for a second. The temperature in the room is quite warm. Drop a bit of red into my seas. Want to get rid of that. Okay, and now I'll use some violet, mainly down below, where I want it to be shadowy and darker. Yep, that's better. The violet is mixing with the other colours and is just giving these nice sort of shadow areas. The top of the neck here I'm leaving white because it's receiving most light. So the shape of the neck there will be defined by the bird behind. And the way that the colours blend on this arches paper, or arch paper, is absolutely wonderful. Really, really nice. Good. I can just feed it. Just drop more and more of the colour in as I wish. In fact, what I'm going to do now too is just introduce a bit of the white gouache. So I'm dropping that in wet. That'll fade somewhat, which is okay. I can add more later on if I want to. Good. Okay. Now I've got a hard edge top of the head, so I just want to put some water into that just to blend that out a little bit. That's fine. I will introduce more colour onto that bird in a second, but I want to do it when it's more or less dry. So now I'm going to work a little bit on the bird in the background. So again, I'm just going to, I could actually go right across the beak of this one here because it's darker, and so it wouldn't matter, but I'll go around it. I've touched the neck there of this one here, and I'm getting a little bit of colour blending, you know, blending into the other bird, and that's perfectly all right. I love it. I might do a little bit of water spray in a minute to increase that effect. You get this lovely fluffiness. Okay, so let's go in with the yellow. I'm going to make this bird a little bit paler. It's slightly in the background, so I don't want it to be, oops, another line there. I don't want it to be quite so vibrant as the bird in front. As I mentioned before, I was a little bit too vibrant with it earlier on. So that's as far as I'll go with the yellow. A little bit of wings are orange. Working fairly quick. Even a fair amount of white. And then going with the kind of red, and you get this lovely, lovely, lovely blending going on because I'm working wet on wet. A little touch there. Don't want to go too much on this back bird. near the neck of the bird in the front, because I did that before and it didn't work out very well. There we go, it's fine. Blend that a little bit. Okay, good. And now I'll use my violet. All the time I'm looking for contrast between the rear bird and the front bird, making sure that one helps to define the other. I don't want the same tone or the same colour from one bird to the other against each other, otherwise I lose the overall effect and the shape of fine. Don't want to go too dark there, just a little bit here. I want to define there just the shape of the front bird, so I just put a little bit of violet there just to give me a little bit more tonal contrast. Okay, there's a lot going on there, a lot that's not quite right, but it doesn't matter. Every one of these that I do comes out differently, just a little bit more red there perhaps. That's fine. Okay, we can all rebalance that later on. Good. But I think I've got the front bird now really looking as though it's ahead of the other bird, which is good. Next thing to do is I'm going to use a bit of a really contrasting colour on the birds now. This is cobalt teal blue. It's a Daniel Smith colour, which I quite enjoy. And I'm just going to put a few flecks of that in. It's a very contrasty colour, but it's a complementary colour in some respects, and it really makes or gives or lends some vibrancy to the object. A bit down there perhaps. I'll just use a little drop on the rear bird, not too much. That's fine. Okay. Okay, now we can look at the beak areas. So I'm going to use my Indian yellow again. You could use cad yellow here, it doesn't really matter too much. Just get the photograph, the picture I did before. Yeah, I can see where that goes. Just the white on top of the beak area and this yellow patch just here. Maybe add just a little touch of orange underneath it, just to give it a bit of three-dimensional shape. The white area here is not quite entirely white, it's slightly grey, so I'll use a bit of my cobalt and ultramarine, that sort of area. Okay, and now I can do the beaks. Now for black I tend to use ultramarine blue mixed with burnt umber. You get a lovely range of greys and blacks with that. I'm going to cheat here just a little bit and go straight in with Payne's Grey. Only because I've got it on the palette. Okay. Same for this one here. Now the back part there is still slightly wet. I should have used a bit of hair dryer on that, but so it's gone a little bit fuzzy. That's okay, that's alright. Not going to worry about that too much. Okay. The neck area here has got a lot of hard areas, hard lines on it, and I want to get rid of that a little bit, so I'm just going to use a bit of fresh water, just blend that around just a little drop. Good. Just to bring his cheek forward a little bit, just a little bit of red there. Good. Okay. Now the legs, they're dark. I'm going to use some yellow on them to start off with, and then a bit of violet, so that they look three-dimensional. So I'm just painting the Indian yellow now down behind. Do the same for okay. And then I'll use a combination of violet, as I said, mixed with just a little touch of burnt umber. Nice shadow colour this. It just, the violet can be too vibrant at times, and the burnt umber just helps to knock it back a little bit. So I'm going to bring that down. There we go. Got these incredible knobbly knees, these birds. Okay, the rear bird there just needs a bit more colour to him, I think. I wanted to keep him in the background, so I didn't want him to be too vibrant. I think I've overdone that just slightly. I've also gone outside the line there on his neck, doesn't matter, that's alright. That's a very powerful cad red, that. Okay, so we're getting very close now to being finished. This stage, what I can do is do a little bit of water spray, just to let some areas go fuzzy. I think I might do that on the rear end of this bird in front. So I'm going to mask the front of the bird and just quick spray. Yeah. And that will just blend and fuzz. It'll come outside the line and everything else. It'll do crazy things, but it'll make the bird look vibrant and alive. I hate paintings where the animals look as though they're being shot and then nailed to a perch. By using the water spray, you get this general fluffiness, which makes them appear as though they're actually alive. I'm just going to use the violet now, just to help define So I'm using violet there to do that. Lovely colour. And what I always do now is just let it dry naturally, and then go back to it and readjust it. That's fine, it's good. Okay, but to finish off, we need the reflections. Now, the original photograph showed the reflections from a sun which is quite high overhead, which meant that the body of the bird was reflected. That's okay, but you've got to be careful there that you don't let the reflection take over the painting. So I'm going to have the sun much lower down behind. In other words, reflecting the birds further down this way, which means that the only reflection I need to put in, essentially, are the reflections of the legs. So start over here, and all I'm going to do is make them very, very simple. I'm just going to move that around and just put one or two squiggles like that. Stop, start, and the same with this one here. That's right. This one's at an angle, so you have to put the reverse angle on. And that's it, more or less complete. Well, here is the finished painting put into a mount. After it had dried, I tidied up one or two areas, intensified some of the colours, put a little bit more red in, made the beaks a little bit darker, put a little bit more detail into the heads, but not too much. We don't need to get too fastidious about eyes and so forth. You can see that the colours that I've used are not, I suppose, what you could call traditional flamenco colours, which tend to be pink, maybe a bit of orange, which is there because the flamingo takes on the colour of what it eats, which tends to be shrimps. But that doesn't matter. I wanted to use vibrant colours. I wanted to make them stand out, and so being absolutely true to life as far as the colour is concerned is not really that important in my artwork. What I wanted was the shapes to be right, I wanted the gestures to be right, the way that they're standing to be right, and so forth, and to make the painting as simple and as quick as possible. Now, with the video, you know, it's taken me quite a time to get together, but let me just show you if I can find it. Another one which has a slightly different arrangement. And in total, including the drawing, that took me no more than about 20-25 minutes. You can obviously take longer if you like. The other thing I've done here too, you can see areas of white dots, and this was the masking fluid, not just used on the bodies, but splattered onto the painting as well, so that when I put the background on and that was dry, taking the masking fluid off leaves you with these little white areas. And it just, not everybody wants to do that, but it just adds a bit of sparkle, a bit of life to the painting, a bit of interest. Anyway, I do hope that you've enjoyed watching me paint this scene, and that it gives you some inspiration to have a go yourself. There are loads of photographs that you can find on the internet and so forth for this sort of subject. Rearrange them, get a nice arrangement, and then just have fun. Thank you for watching.